Hello students! In this week's tutorial, Unit 4, you will be learning more about writing process essays. Let's look at the objectives of this week's tutorial, Unit 4. Number 1, you will understand the purpose of writing process essays effectively. You will be able to determine the key stages that you need in order to write the process essay. And finally, how to organize your ideas in paragraphs that achieve unity and cohesion. Therefore, this video will be providing you with a process of writing process essays. Let's begin by talking a little bit about the word process itself. What is a process? As human beings, we've always been curious about how things function and how things work. And this curiosity has made us go into details of how things work. Therefore, when we are talking about the process of how something is done or how something is accomplished or achieved, we present or discuss the series of steps that we need in order to achieve that thing effectively. So we look for the most effective way or ways to do something and we talk about it. Similarly, in a process essay, this is what we are covering. So what is the purpose of writing a process essay and why do we write it? Here we have to ask ourselves some questions like these ones. Why is this process important? How would it be useful to the reader to learn more about this process? How could they benefit from it? And what are the challenges in the process? Because every process in life has challenges, and we need to know what these challenges are. Therefore, our purpose in a process essay is to enlighten the reader. You have to put the audience in your mind when you are writing the process. This is why you need to explain in detail to clarify and describe the process to make it simpler for the reader to understand it. As always, when we have to write essays, one important part of it is to know how to organize our ideas. In a process essay, usually we follow a chronological order, obviously because we need to talk about the steps, what happens first, next, after, and finally until we achieve the goal. Therefore, we organize the smaller steps into groups of steps that have something in common. This is the most effective approach. I will show you later in the example. We have a lot of steps that we have to do in order to, let's say, I don't know, cook a meal, learn how to change the car's tire, write an essay, create a PowerPoint presentation, etc. We have a lot of steps. However, we could divide the steps into larger steps, and this way the process becomes easier to follow. Therefore, we need to categorize the steps of the process. In our minds, in the graphic organizer, when we brainstorm, then we write. So how do we structure the process essay? According to the following outline. As we learned in the beginning of this course, we start with the introduction. The introduction should include a hook. We have many types of hooks, around 9. You choose a hook that you are skilled at and which is relevant to the topic. Next, you give some background information about the process. Here, it is really advisable to be talking about the importance of the process, for example. Next, you have to talk about to write the thesis statement, which outlines the steps of the process. We will be talking about the thesis statement in detail later. Now, next we have the body paragraph. We will be writing 3 body paragraphs. What should each body paragraph include? The category or the group or set of steps leading to the achievement of the goal. So number 1, body 1 will have the topic sentence, of course, starting with the transition and then the details that describe that step. Similarly, we do in body paragraph 2 and body paragraph 3. Finally, we come to the conclusion. Just like the conclusions we've learned before, a conclusion should start with a restatement of the thesis, followed by a summary of the main ideas, and finally, a conclusion technique. We learned about 5 different techniques of conclusions. Now, when it comes to the thesis statement, as you know, as we have explained before, that the thesis statement is the route that guides the reader to what's coming next. It has to explain that you will be explaining how to do something, and it has to tell the steps in brief of how something is done. Now, you have two approaches to writing the thesis. It could be a simple thesis, like where you just mention the number of steps without giving details, but ideally, you could make your thesis statement really stronger by adding some information reflecting the condition of the process, the judgment, why it's important and effective, and the context in brief about these groups of steps. Now, let's look at some examples of what to write in a thesis statement. A thesis statement may use, number one, hedging words such as may, might, can, seem, appear. Like this process may seem difficult. However, it can be achieved through this, that, and finally that thing. Next, we could add conditional words like if, provided that, unless, when. These would be helpful when you're writing a solid and strong thesis statement. Now let's look at some real examples. Let's say you are writing an essay about how to study properly at a university level, and you want to advise students to follow a study schedule. Let's look at the first thesis statement. The steps to create a study schedule are simple. This could be a thesis statement. However, is this thesis statement solid, strong? Does it really outline the ideas in the body paragraph? Does it tell the reader what's going to come next? No, it doesn't. Let's examine the following thesis statement. If created properly, an effective study schedule, this is our topic, it's very clear, involves, we're using the verb involves, setting clear priorities, body 1, dividing tasks, body 2, and adjusting the plan regularly. Now, these are the subtopics which will align with the body paragraph. And we see here we started with if created properly. I'm giving a condition about the process, which is properly designing the study schedule, and I'm using a verb that indicates my essay will be about the process of creating an effective study schedule. Now, let's talk a little bit about transitions. We've talked about transitions before when we talked about unity and cohesion in an essay. Transitions are tools for maintaining the smooth flow of ideas. It's a cohesive device, and we need to ensure using it as usual in a process essay. You have here, you can take a screenshot of this slide. You have here different transitions you are familiar with, which you could be using when you're writing your process essay. Other than first, next, after, later, or finally, you can find here a lot of different transitions you could use. Finally, let's look at a sample essay related to the thesis statement which we discussed before, creating an effective study schedule. In the introduction here, please pause and read the introduction before I comment on it. As you can see, the introduction starts with a hook, and the hook is based on statistics by the American College Health Association in 2023 about the stress level among students. So here we are laying background information and the importance of the process of creating a study schedule. Next, we see here the thesis statement, which we examined before, and this thesis statement introduces the subtopics as we had said earlier. It's a solid introduction with the hook, lead in or background information, and finally the thesis statement. Next, in the body, paragraph 1, we start with a transition, the first step. You could start with first of all, and then we see the topic sentence 1, which aligns with the subtopic in the thesis statement. Pause and read the details. You will notice that we went into the details of this step. We gave examples and provided research according to McCann about the importance of the step, which is what clearing priorities before starting a schedule. And then this was explained by ranking tasks. What does it mean to prioritize tasks? We provided more elaboration and explanation on this step. Body 2 will be talking about the second subtopic, starting with the transition after that, and then the topic sentence 2, which is about dividing tasks into smaller manageable time blocks. And here we have comparisons, we have examples, we have research results as well in order to support and back up our essay. Body 3 also starts with a transition, finally, at last, in the end, and the last topic sentence with the third subtopic from the thesis statement, which is related to adjusting the schedule regularly. What do we mean by that? That is, regularly, every month, we create a new schedule that works for the month that is coming. We also have a citation here, a piece of evidence to back up the importance of the step in this process. Notice the transitions used, such as thus, for example, here. We always end the paragraph with like a short concluding sentence or a summary of what was mentioned before. Finally, we come to the conclusion. We have a summary and we have a restatement. This is the restatement of the thesis, transition followed by a restatement, then the summary. So this is the restatement of the thesis statement. And then we have body 1, body 2, and finally body 3. This is the summary of the body paragraph, followed by this emphasis on the process itself and why it's important and why it's significant. So this conclusion technique is prediction. What will this method give these students? So it will be reducing stress and building confidence. University life can be challenging, but students who follow this process carefully will enjoy prediction, both academic success and personal balance. This is it. Thank you for listening and being attentive. Trust the process of building a process essay. You might be benefiting from this video and the sample essay in creating study schedules for yourselves with the midterm coming and until the end of the semester. You may refer to the book and the activities that you are doing in class, which you will find on pages 72 to 101. Bye-bye.